I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in memory of David Weiss, the firefighters and first responders, and the innocent civilians who died at the World Trade Centers on September 11th, 2001. Good evening and welcome. Thank you for your courage and for your willingness to reconsider the very difficult subject of 9/11 and the destruction of the World Trade Center with its staggering loss of life. This effort of the 9/11Truth movement has proven to so many to be extremely difficult. Not so difficult in terms of the evidence and reaching conclusions, though, but difficult in terms of the implications of those conclusions. And finding people who are open-minded enough, like yourselves, to be willing to spend the time and re-examine the facts about the destruction of these high-rises and the subsequent investigations. Our commitment to you tonight is to speak the truth and to leave you with extremely valuable science-based information. But please, don't believe us. We're not looking for believers. We implore you, check out every fact that you hear tonight, because it's extremely important that we know the whole truth about this event. After all, it served as the pretext for the invasion and occupation of two countries in which over 1 million people have already perished, and the loss through legislation of many of our hard-won freedoms that we used to cherish here in America, as well as instituting important policies of extraordinary rendition and torture and the ensuing so-called global war on terror, plus a host of other ills that we're suffering from as a nation. Now, all of this remains intact if we continue to ignore or sweep the truth about 9/11 under the rug. And the only truth, will stop another 9/11 type attack from happening again. We must dedicate ourselves to finding out exactly what really happened and why, and to bringing those actually responsible to justice. So these are among the many reasons that we must peer into this painful part of our recent world history and re-examine the destruction, the investigations, and the relatively new physical evidence from 9/11, most of which we haven't seen in the mainstream media. To identify the perpetrator, first know the crime. Tonight we focus on the forensic evidence found and destroyed at the crime scene, the eyewitness testimony, and the official government reports. Now, my own path to 9/11Truth has been informed by some important people. I spent a week in Washington in March of 2004 covering the work of the 9/11 Commission, and I was appalled. I recall Donald Rumsfeld testifying, and he was asked if he had ordered jets scrambled to defend the Pentagon on 9/11. And he answered the question by repeating the question. And then the clock ran out, and the chairman, Mr. Kane, Governor Kane, said, "Time's up." The question was never answered. And while I was there, I met Kyle Hentz, who worked with the families and the so-called Jersey girls. He gave me a copy of David Ray Griffin's New Pearl Harbor. We also gave a copy to Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Not sure she's read it. But I believe that if you haven't read one of David Ray Griffin's books, you must. And if you have, it's almost impossible to accept the official story. So we're still seeking the truth, and tonight we will explore the myths of 9/11. It's my great pleasure to introduce you to tonight's speakers. These professionals have been willing to place their credibility and reputations on the line, and they've endured substantial personal sacrifice. They're tireless and tenacious advocates for questions that are all too few are willing to ask, and truths that fewer still are willing to face, truths that may shake the foundations of our worldview. So first, let me introduce you to a venturesome architect of over 20 years here in the San Francisco Bay Area and a member of the prestigious American Institute of Architects. He's been employed with local San Francisco Bay Area architecture firms and is now devoting 100% of his time and energy to this cause. Like many other architects, he's designed many fireproofed steel frame buildings in his career. Most recently, he co-managed the construction documents work on a $400 million mixed-use project in Nevada with almost 2 million square feet of retail parking structure and fireproofed steel-framed mid-rise office space, with over 1,200 tons of steel framing altogether. His deep concern about the destruction of the 3 World Trade Center high-rises on 9/11 began after his exposure to David Ray Griffin on KPFA's Guns and Butter program hosted by Bonnie Faulkner. This changed Mr. Gage's life radically and launched his own unyielding quest for the truth about 9/11, inspiring him to found the organization Architects and Engineers for 911Truth. AE 911Truth now numbers over 1,000 architects and engineers and 8,000 others, all demanding a new investigation into these catastrophic structural failures. Richard Gage has presented to over 150 packed audiences just this past week in Canada, too, and their worldviews have been irrevocably altered by this myth-shattering information. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Richard Gage, AIA. Richard?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And it's now an equal honor to introduce our featured speaker, a full-time 14-year firefighter who's assigned to Ladder 3 in the city of Seattle. Before becoming a firefighter, he was a paramedic in the Sacramento area for 8 years, leaving the Sacramento Fire Department for Seattle in '96. Altogether, over 22 years of experience in emergency services. He graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics from the University of California at Davis. In 2008, startled yet inspired by the factual and irrefutable presentation of the architects and engineers for 911Truth, he decided that someone must step forward and take the heat for the truth. His 343 fallen brothers deserved no less. He felt that he had no choice in the matter. Like Richard Gage before him, it came forth as if a haunted, persistent calling. And so he founded the FireFighters for 911Truth, today numbering over 100 firefighters, all demanding a new investigation of the destruction of these 3 high-rises and an investigation of the investigators themselves. Please welcome the courageous Eric Lawyer, Firefighters for 911Truth.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.